Hey there, YouTube friends. History Mystery Man here, getting ready to bring you the conclusion of the Raleigh Beale story. And throughout the entire four-part series, I think this photo is my absolute favorite. Raleigh driving off the fourth corner at Eldora Speedway, 1967. Open face helmet, goggles, no roll cage. Look how exposed he is. Skinny hard tires, no power steering. He's not even wearing gloves. The right arm cocked all the way over with the left hand up on the wheel. You can see, you can see the wedding ring on his hand. You know, I heard a top brand stock car driver just the other day. He was whining on the radio about, oh my God, I'm a tick tight in the center and I'm loose off. Oh no, run for your life. Well, can you imagine climbing in one of these in 1967? Then we'll talk about a tick tight in the center and loose off. These guys were pioneers, daredevils, gladiators. They absolutely paved the way for the multi-million-dollar business we all enjoy today. Thank you, Raleigh. Please enjoy the conclusion of the Raleigh Beale story. How do you like the one-room schoolhouse in the background? Isn't that cool? Gotta love it.
I know Raleigh won the little 500 once too.
Just once.
Yeah.
66.
66, okay.
That kind of put him on the map.
Yeah, I'll bet it did.
Kind of opened the door for him for better racing, you know.
If Raleigh would have won the championship in 67, there may have been more opportunities for him, but he got hurt, broke his leg, and didn't win the championship till 73. By now, he's 43. There were talks then, I remember newspaper headlines, you know, eyeing a ride at the Brickyard and all that. Did Raleigh have regrets that he never, that opportunity never came for him?
I think he did. I think he would have really wanted it. But he was too old. It wasn't a good. It wouldn't have been a good thing to start that old.
Sure.
In Indianapolis.
Yeah.
But yeah, he did. He did regret that.
So he doesn't win the championship in 67. He heals up and comes back and races and hooks up with Ron Kilman and chief mechanic Donnie Harrell. And they together in the very famous now Rodeo Bar Special car finish 11th in points. Then they finished third. In 72 they finished second, and then here comes 1973. What happened in those twin 50s, the finale at Eldora Speedway, to decide the champion that 1973 season? It could be a major league motion picture, the way it all planned out. It would be a great movie. What stands out to you from that day?
Just under a lot of tension, I guess, but
Yeah.
nothing special except the flip.
How did that happen?
I mean, that makes me laugh, and I'm a happy person. I'm not. I don't look to bad things and disappointment and whatever. I'm always up.
But that was so odd because they were running twin 50s, which in itself was odd. I don't remember USAC Sprints running twin 50-lap features, especially during the day at Eldora.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know their reasoning.
I didn't like it as a kid. I remember thinking, well, that's twice as many chances to screw up and miss this thing.
I don't know.
So the championship, Lee Koonsman and Raleigh were just a few points apart going into the last race. And here's a new thing that USAC did that day that I couldn't figure out. They never did this before. They let the 6 fastest qualifiers go out and hot lap right before the features. And that's when Raleigh flipped. And I thought, what on earth are we doing here? And then I couldn't believe Raleigh didn't make mistakes. But did he make one that day?
I don't know because he flipped so slow. It was it wasn't like he's going fast. He went in that turn slow and he caught something and it just flipped it.
He hooked a rut or something.
Something that was weird because of the flip, because it was a slow flip.
But it was enough to break the front end on the car. It was inoperable.
Yeah.
He couldn't race the car.
Yeah.
And now you talk about drama and tension. Whoa! Now what do we do? I mean, we're coming into the first 50-lapper.
Duke Cook had the backup car.
So Raleigh got in a backup sprint car, And because he was in a backup car, he had to start at the tail end. And he came through the field in 6th or 7th. And as the
Seemed like 7.
7th, you're probably right about that.
I don't know for sure.
But it was enough to keep his championship hopes alive. But the motor blows coming across the checkered flag.
See, I don't remember that.
Something happened to the car.
Did it?
Something, I don't know what it was, but something happened to the car. And so now we got another 50 lapper coming in 15 minutes. And it's like, okay, now what do we do? But after the first 50 lapper, here comes Sammy Sessions, says, all right. And Sammy Sessions is the...
Sammy had won the year before.
He was
yeah. I think he wanted to see Raleigh win the championship. That's why he offered the car that day then, yeah. That's what it was.
That crowd is clearly in his favor. Lee Koonsman had his fans, but Lee Koonsman was young, and Raleigh was getting to the twilight of his career.
I think the age had a difference in their attitude toward him.
So he gets in the one car, the Amerling Special that Sammy Sessions drove. Because he's in a different car, he starts at the back end again and comes through the field and comes up to maybe 6th or something, whatever it was, and finishes and beats Lee Koonsman for the championship by just 24 points. I mean, it was so dramatic. And so, I mean, it was so intense. Just the way it happened. He literally used 3 cars to win.
Yeah, like you said, it could be a movie.
In the same day, It's worth noting that there was another earlier that season, that 73 season at New Bremen Speedway, the rodeo bar car, the motor blew, I think it was, and he was done for the day. But Jerry Niemeyer came along and offered up his car, the Sweet 16, Red 16, and in that car, Raleigh finished 2nd in the feature event at New Bremen Speedway and collected like 32 points. If Jerry Niemeyer doesn't offer his car that day, there's no championship. He won by 24 and he made like 32 that day at New Bremen. So there's much more to the story, and I wanted to put that in there.
Yeah.
I can remember seeing as a kid, Larry Dixon, one of the old nemesis, Larry Dixon. He was jumping up and down like a wild man cheering for Raleigh Beale that day. I mean, they all were. It was amazing. It's just incredible.
Yeah, everybody wanted it. They were all glad to see. Even I think Lee Koonsman was.
Isn't that funny? The guy he beat. The whole thing of, growing up with Raleigh, married for more than 60 years, and the whole racing thing. That had to have been thrilling for you to be along for all that.
Can you imagine the
I can.
excitement of it?
Ah.
And all the things that happen that are, God seemed to step in and help us. I mean, when I got pregnant for Bonnie, and he would have gone in the Korean War, and who knows from that what would have happened. Just so many things.
Did you look forward to going to the races as much as he did?
Oh yes. From that day I told you that I watched him when I said, you better never race. And that first race he ran that I saw.
You were there for all of it, weren't you?
Every bit of it.
Wow. What an amazing
You better
ride.
not start driving a race car, I'll divorce you.
Yeah, right.
And then afterwards, go Beale. There were times when it was pretty tense, but
Of course.
Just not for his life so much though. I just didn't. I can't explain that feeling that he gave me right away. Don't you worry.
Feeling of comfort.
I'll live through all this.
We talked about as he aged, he got a little softer. The soft side in him began to come out.
After he got dementia.
Really?
He really softened up then.
Really?
Even with me, he was so good, so much nicer. And because he was always gruff.
I do remember as a kid, as a soft side to Raleigh Beale, because there were times when I was the stepchild. I wasn't like born into the deal, I was the kind of an outsider, but he was always kind in that, like when all the other kids of the parents who worked on the car, he'd be in you remember those mobs in Victory Lane on the front stretch at Toledo? My God, you couldn't get close to him, but he would. There were times when Raleigh, all the kids would sit in the car, and there was a time I remember when he noticed I don't know how, but I didn't sit in the car, and he came over and said, he helped lift me into the car and
Yeah.
wanted to make sure that I sat in the car,
Yeah.
And I thought that was cool. We were in some bar, and I think they were racing at Williams Grove Speedway in Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania. We were in a bar late night. Those guys partied like crazy. I was just a kid, and just hanging out with them. They were shooting pool, and it was Raleigh Beale shot. And that was another thing. I couldn't process that they actually knew my name, but he said, "Bub, come here," and he let me sit on his knee, And then it became his time to shoot pool. And they said, "You're up," and he said, "Just go ahead, shoot for me," because he knew I was really enjoying the moment of sitting on his knee, and he said, just, and those little things like that really stand out and stay with a kid over the years. He did understand. I think he had a good understanding of how much the people appreciated him.
He enjoyed it, and he knew the fans did, they wanted, he always had a big, at the racetrack, always a big gang around him.
Oh, yeah, constantly, the Raleigh Beale bunch. To me, he was almost at times shy, on the microphone. He wasn't...
He was never wanted to come across as being arrogant or, cocky.
And he didn't.
Yeah, he knew that, and he deliberately was like that. He was sharp. He was a smart man.
He was. I wonder what he would think about all the social unrest going on now.
So, I don't know about that social unrest, because nobody's going to control that.
No one's got answers for that.
That's because there's no love left in this world. I think that's what got me through my life, is faith.
Yeah.
Always had faith.
You still have it?
Oh, more than ever.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, in reference to Raleigh's softer side, I have a letter here that, we talked about the championship where had he not gotten Jerry Niemeyer's car that day at New Bremen, the stage would not have been set in the Eldora finale for him to win the championship. And Raleigh recognized that, and he wrote a letter to Jerry Niemeyer, a handwritten letter. And there it is, the penmanship of Raleigh Beale, which, by the way, he had good penmanship and grammatically very correct, punctuation, all good.
I told you he was self-taught, and he did a good job of it.
I believe it. So he sat down and penned this letter, and it says, and it reads, "Hi, Jerry. Having been inducted into the Hall of Fame made me think of the good friends I've made in racing and the thanks I need to give to good friends like you for making it possible. Thinking of August 12th, 1973. That must have been the day of the New Bremen race. It was that you let me drive your car that day that was very important. Thanks very much for that and for many other things, Raleigh." Now, it's not the Gettysburg Address, but the fact that he sat down and penned a letter to Jerry Niemeyer in thanks and appreciation for that championship, that says something to me.
He did have that, yeah. He had feelings, but as I say, he held them in. Normally, he just didn't let them, he didn't show them.
Yeah, I think that was common from that era, from men, I think it'd be, I think it'd be different now for him, I think.
Yeah, men weren't allowed to have feelings.
Yeah.
Stop that crying, you're a boy, boys don't cry.
Right.
They did say that too, that was how it was.
Yeah, and now a parent would be more apt to say, "It's okay if you cry.
It's okay. And what's wrong?
Yeah,
can
sure.
I help you?
Sure.
Tell me why you're crying."
It just wasn't that era. It was a different time. And that's how his parents raised him. That's where you learn it from,
Yes.
We can only go on what we learn.
It was not just his parents, that was the time.
It was the time.
It was the way it was.
Is there anything that from his career, any particular race that stands out to you? I guess that...
I always remember the Foyt race. Because it was close. I'm telling you, it was not like one or the other got away from each other. They raced close for all those, 50 laps, 25 laps, whatever it was. It was so close.
And Raleigh beat him.
And Raleigh beat him.
Wow, at Eldora. And you got to think about that. 1967, AJ had already won 3 Indianapolis 500s, 61,
He was a-
64, and
And
67.
he felt that way too. He felt like he was so proud of that, so thrilled with doing that. That's one time he did show a lot of emotion.
I believe it. I would have loved to have been there for those moments. I bet that stuck with him maybe even more than the championship.
It did. It really did, I think.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
This is such a cool story. I mean, do you remember him daily? Does he come back?
Oh, yeah.
Is it constant?
Yeah, he's part of, because I was with him so many years, my whole life, since I was 18 years old so all those years.
Mm-hmm.
So he was my whole life, even if I didn't like him when I met him.
I guess he grew on you.
He did. He grew on me, and I kind of fell in love with him.
Well,
Nice to talk and bring up those memories.
yeah.
Yeah.
What a great ride you had. That was,
Oh,
I mean, you
that's
came up
great.
through the greatest era, in my
Yes.
opinion. The 50s, 60s, and 70s.
Yeah, not in all ways, it was a good time.
Yeah, the 1950s, once we cleared the Korean War, I mean, you want to talk about promise in America and low
Yeah,
crime. And
I think that happened when they tried to take religion out of everything. I really do. And they did it. There was a point where they wouldn't allow it in schools, and they wouldn't allow it here. They wouldn't allow it there. It was kind of, and everything started going downhill from that day on.
I'm glad
You
you're...
learn to love and not hate. Hate is negative, wasted energy. It's like trying to talk to a drunk. You don't talk to drunks.
You move on.
Yes, or shut up and leave them sit there stewing.
Are you saying what the world needs now is love, sweet love? Is that what you're getting at? That's the best advice any of us will hear all day.
How good. That's a good way to end this, Bubba.
Raleigh Beale's kitchen for more than 60 years. Wow. I think about like how many times he touched that doorknob going down to the basement. I'm weird that way. I don't know. How many times Raleigh Beale scaled these steps heading down to the man
All
cave.
the time, yes.
How long did he suffer with dementia? Did that go on for years? Or
Not a long time, no. It wasn't, you didn't really know that he had it. He wasn't bad.
did he die at home or did he die at the hospital?
He died at the hospital.
Did he?
'Cause
At
when
Toledo
he
Hospital?
got up that morning, he was pretty sick, and he fell. He was out in the kitchen trying to walk around, but he was legs were giving out on him, and very hard to get around. But he went out there, came back in here, and fell. So he just let himself slide down the wall, and with his legs out straight. And then it was on a Sunday morning, because whatever happened that morning, I called, wasn't up very long, and I called Gary. I said, Gary, I think we need to do something about Dad. So he came over, and he says, well, I'm calling 911 because we couldn't get him out of here. He couldn't walk anymore, maybe that's what it was. And we didn't have a way of wheeling him out.
Sure.
So they came and they wheeled him and took him in an ambulance, and then we followed it over here to Toledo Hospital. I spent the day, slept the night, and by that time he was dying. He was breathing heavier.
Was it mostly
Fighting for
congestive
his-
heart failure?
Yeah, I would say it was.
Yeah.
That he was fighting for breath.
Sure.
All night long, because I stood by him, but I got up in the morning and he was really worse. And the kids, I called them, or maybe they were there, I know. Barb and Gary, and yeah, anyway, that he survived that night, and then the next morning he passed away. When I said he was fighting for his breath, and I was standing by him when he did, holding him and talking to him and telling him it was time to let go. He was fighting so hard, like he was trying to stay here.
Yeah.
But he wasn't going to. You knew that. You know?
Sure.
Well, Barb knew. She talked to the doctor, and she knew that he was dying, and so she was right there with me. Well, they all were. But I just stood right by him. And,
Do you think he knew you guys were all there? I mean, could he?
I do think so.
Yeah.
I do. He seemed aware. He did seem aware. He wasn't out of it in his head.
Sure.
It was just his body, his heart.
He had just
It
given
was
out.
mainly the heart.
Kind of like the breath going out in a giant, you know, because he was a giant to so many people. You know, you saw him differently because you went through all the pain and struggles of family and the human elements of what it's like to live with someone. But for so many, he was a giant.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, he didn't like the wings.
He did not like wings, okay.
Yeah.
No, and he didn't like NASCAR. No, he did not.
But he was, he did, on some level, idolize John Wayne, the movie star?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah. Not on some level, he did.
He did. Do you think he patterned his personality off the tough guy, the Duke?
I wouldn't be at all surprised. I wouldn't be a bit surprised. I don't know when he started liking him, but that wouldn't surprise me. He was a macho because of him.
Raleigh Beale's garage. Did he spend a lot of time out here?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, he was out here all the time.
Or didn't he?
He got up and had breakfast, and he'd come out here.
Really?
Oh, yeah. There's a
Picture on the back end of this car? Oh, really? Wow. Oh, that's neat.
Oh, Raleigh had.
That's a
Donnie,
beautiful. That's a
Harrell.
beautiful shot.
Gary Harrell put that on.
Oh, okay.
He's that. Probably in this one, lots and lots of times.
He sat there and watched his little TV up there.
Yep. I think it was the same TV too.
I wonder if he watched The Rifleman. Remember The Rifleman?
Yeah, anything
Anything
Western.
Western.
On,
He liked Westerns.
He did. Day
Wonder
or
what-
night. Day or night.
Wonder where that came from.
I don't know.
That's funny.
Yeah.
I could see that John Wayne gruff in him, though, that tough guy.
Yeah. Yep. Oh.
You know, I'll never forget the day Raleigh retired at Toledo Speedway in 1977. I was 17 years old, probably had a few beers, but I was ready for it. But came that moment when he got on the microphone and actually said he was going to hang up his goggles. I sat there and cried like a little baby boy. Yeah, I did. The crowd was unbelievable. There were a gentleman behind me was screaming at the top of his lungs, "Don't do it, Raleigh! Don't do it, Raleigh!" I mean, the crowd was engaged like I had never seen one before. Toledo took this really hard, and so did I. It was an incredible moment, but certainly thanks to you, Raleigh, for taking this once troubled little boy on the adventure of a lifetime.